If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me for the new year, once again, I have Josh. How you doing?
It is definitely the new year. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm getting over, I have this lingering cough from a cold that I had over Christmas. So the fun that I have here. So if you hear me coughing on the podcast, that's what's going on with me. Other than that, everything else is going great. New year. I had a ton of time off of work, which was great. So good.
That sounds really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the new year, and we're trying to. My wife made us bingo cards. Okay. For the thought being that things we'd like to see happen in the new year. And I didn't care for that because there's like all sorts of different things that could happen or things that are going to happen, and there's ways to like, I know what movies are coming out, I know what I'd like to go see, I can make stuff up. So I thought it would be fun to go through and put in like a number of not hard and fast New Year's resolutions, but some more vague resolutions.
I always like with I think I get where you're trying to transition us to, but I always like the idea of New Year's resolutions that you can sort of achieve, attainable goals.
Attainable goals and stuff that, me personally, I would like to achieve to better myself, to become a better person.
Almost like you want to give yourself a backstory.
I would like to give myself a plot hook.
I mean, plot hook.
Like I already have the backstory. I would like to tie it into an achievable goal so that I've got something to look forward to, a reason,
a little bit of motivation.
Yeah, to give my 2026 a story arc,
or maybe to give your 2026 GM a little opportunity to get your character a story. So let's talk about making better backstories, Josh.
Specifically, I do want to emphasize this: tying backstories and plot hooks together for better storytelling, because we did already cover doing better backstories back in 2023. A quaint little podcast.
2023. Wow, we've been doing me and you have been doing the podcast that long. I think we have 5 years of episodes in general. So wow, this podcast has been around for a hot minute. All right. So if you've been listening that long, let us know. Level Up Gaming Podcast at gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupgaming, or comment on a video. Okay. Let us know. Happy to hear from you. That'd be really cool to hear about some people who have been listening. If you've been listening that whole way, or if you're just a brand new listener, you want to chime in.
Yeah, I went and I was just checking through my old notes to make sure we hadn't already covered the topic, and that was the last backstories one we did. I thought it was
at some point we're going to revisit making better backstories, but it's going to be with the new glasses.
And we're going to hit our microphone when we do it?
We're going to make little clicky noises, new glasses. All right. We're going to be looking at them through new lenses, the new lenses of 2020, whatever, whenever we make that.
Whenever we do that. Yeah. And I think, I went back and I looked at our notes from back then, and it was very much about how to write a good backstory that isn't, absolutely insane. And it's a good listen. If you guys haven't heard it, you should go back and listen to it. If you have heard it, good on you. It's been a couple years. Go back and listen to it anyway.
Yeah.
But the notes like specifically, it talks about a lot of things that we talk about when we talk about. I said that way too many times. When we say that we don't want to have somebody with like a whole novel as a backstory, because that's not a starter character. That's an epic character. That's somebody that's already been somewhere, done something, right?
Yes, yes.
What
The goal of the
we
backstory is the cliff notes about your character, and then motivations to what you want to do, which I think what we're going to be talking about here today.
exactly
Kind of give your GM a little bit of a. We've been doing the whiskeys of the world when we've been meeting, so maybe a little taster to
just a
get
little hint. Yeah.
to inspire. You know,
Well, and I think it's a good place to start out with talking about what we really were talking about when we are doing good backstories. When we talked about this before, the first thing that we had gone over, and my first note here is to remember what level that you start at. If a player is writing a backstory for a character, and they're starting out at level 1, they should have a level 1 style backstory.
yes, yes. You cannot be the fatal flaw is your friend who is a very good writer, a little bit of a they enjoy writing. The fatal flaw is having somebody like that who writes a very very detailed backstory, but it's like a novel that you never that ends. It's already over by the time you get to the character, and they did too much. They've done far too much for whatever sort of you know whatever stage that character comes into your story at. They've done way too much already. So
Yeah, if you got a level 1 character, they should be just starting out. They're not a master pickpocket. They're not a fabled warrior of legend. They're not, a sorcerer, of the highest level, gone through the wizarding college or whatever. They are starting out. They've just learned the basics and want to go make a name for themselves in the world. They want to do something. Um, One of the things that I've suggested is, yes, you have to be as basic as possible, uh, but you should have a reason. Like there's a goal, there's a purpose, there's a thing that has brought you into this group with the other players, that you want to achieve something, that you're looking for your adventure. Um, I like having my players sort of create personal ties with each other. Like I knew this guy from here. We were soldiers together. Um, this guy saved my uncle on a farm, and we became friends and whatnot. Whatever. There's a history. It doesn't have to be a big history. It can be simple, but ties between the players is super useful for creating actual interesting stories, because then one person's story can sort of involve multiple people.
yeah. Generally, that's just a. I mean, even if you don't do backstories, it is a good habit in general to have your players figure out how they're all connected versus trying to connect all your. It's like a cheat code for getting you into a game as a group, and that's typically done within the session zero sort of thing. There, I don't know if you have to interweave the backstories necessarily, but I mean, we're talking about this is like next level sort of like level 1 is characters all know each other, you guys figured out how they do that. Level 2 is you have intersecting uh points in your backstory that connect the characters, which can allow a GM opportunities to create more interesting scenes for both characters, obviously, and for all the characters if you're all connected in some fashion. It is tough um to have two characters who are connected and the rest of your characters are unconnected. through backstories. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but remember to give credence to all the backstories, because obviously if two people have worked together to interweave a backstory, there's probably going to be more meat there for you to work with, and just more opportunities for you to make things happen. And going back to your other point about like how you can't be, if you're a level 1 character, you can't be a master swordsman and all this stuff. You could have been trained by a master swordsman. Like that could be a deep motivation for your character and like the direction your character tries to go and improve upon themselves. But you are obviously are not that at level 1, but it does help you justify how specialized you are in different things, and how you are very skilled in these ways.
Mhm. Yeah, no, and like having, you write that epic backstory and then you cross it all out and be like, this is what I'd like it to be eventually. Um, Personal ties to other people at the table is good. Yes, you are right. You can't have just like those two guys know each other and those two guys know each other, but they don't know the two groups don't know each other. I think that session 0 is, the time together. Um, if you're telling this sort of campaign, sometimes it's good to have like a starter mission for people to get to know each other and interact, and then you can throw personal stories at them. Uh, but another thing that I've liked is, hey, you're going to write some backstory, but we're going to leave chunks vague. We're going to gloss over what happened in certain periods of time. And that allows for, hey, you did know them, but you didn't know it was them. Okay. Or something happened and we will flesh it out based on where the story goes. And it'll become like retroactively your backstory because you left that area sort of vague or not colored in as well. And along with leaving things vague, sometimes I've written this also into stories before, and this is really fun, is there are things that the player knows, and there are things that the player thinks they know about their own backstory. And if you let them know this, like you have to let them know straight up, like, hey, you're going to write your backstory, and some of the things in your backstory might not be accurate. They're accurate to you, but they didn't actually happen that way, and we'll get into it later. And you can write sort of a contextual thing. There's the whole, like, I thought this happened this way, but it turns out it actually happened a different way. It was a different person that did that thing, or it happened a different, at a different place or at a different time to a different person. And, memory is weird and you remember the things you remember, but it's not always 100% accurate. In fact, it's very rarely 100% accurate. And the more trauma or, action or difference that has happened since that event, the more likely it is that the memory you have of what had happened is incorrect. And it's very interesting to throw that at a player and be like, hey, you've been fighting for this your whole time, or you've been trying to, hunt down this person, and they weren't the ones responsible, or that's not actually what happened. But here is what happened, and here's how you can, fix that thing. So you could throw that into a story, and that's very interesting as well. Leave things vague, give them room to fill in a backstory as it comes in, but still have plot hooks. All options for a backstory.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting way of doing a backstory. When you were talking about it, one of the things I thought about was like the amnesia backstory. I'll get to that in a moment. That's a whole different problem. Um, but I think if you are, again, as long as it is straight up said that you are crafting a backstory that sort of comes with the vagary of it, is that that the vague option of it is this is what you think sort of thing, and I like that little spin on it, which is that your memory, obviously it plays tricks on you. You don't remember it very well. I mean, like, people are notoriously unreliable witnesses to events, and you are no different to your own events. So, that's is you've laid that out with your players ahead of time, and there's a lot of a very clear understanding. Hey, this is how this is going to be, or this is what this is going to look like. Um, I think that's pretty cool. The other thing I thought of while you're saying it was, again, I go back to the amnesia thing. Amnesia is a funky one, which is you don't get to write a backstory, okay, or whatever backstory you write is wholesale wrong. The GM basically gets to choose it for you. So, like, you can never let somebody who has an amnesia backstory actually, like, choose their backstory. I would strongly advise, unless they have like selective amnesia of a specific event, um, to say, amnesia is you're telling the GM you make something up for me. Okay. It is also lazy. It's a lot of players like it because they think it's cool. Like, they see it in movies and stuff, but it's very lazy as a player. If you're a player listening to this, um, don't do that. Don't choose amnesia. Choose something better. Level up
Yeah.
your gaming, please.
Like, well, that was my wife in our desert campaign. She didn't want to write a backstory. And, like, I'm not going to fight with my wife. We're not going to do that. So she just wanted to be a desert ranger. So I wrote her a backstory that she found out through the game. That, she was the youngest child of a family that was that had sent her out into the desert so that she would survive after the town was being sacked, and it was picked up by the desert nomads. They didn't know where she came from. She didn't know where she came from because she was such a small child at the time. And it gave, a fun backstory tied into the other players' backstories, because that family was also the ones that blah blah blah, and they did this blah blah blah, and you can build on that. But it is a very, very lazy backstory.
The part of the problem with not coming up with any motivation for your character is that although I can write you a story for it, if you don't like the story, why would you engage with it?
That's
So,
very
like,
true. Yeah.
so like, not only have you, I mean, again, this is completely up to you as a player if you want to do this, and you as a GM if you want to let your players do this. If they aren't going to give you any motivation, and you decide to come up with one for them, if they don't like it, it's not incumbent upon you to then come up with something else. Okay, if they don't want to give you anything, you can just be like, well, all right, there's nothing special about you, so you get no story beats or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I specifically tied it into every other player's story there, was because, hey, if she doesn't want to engage with the story, it's still there as part of everyone else's. So it ties into the other players at the table so they can experience the story. It was an opportunity. I went for it. It was enjoyed. It's not for everybody.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, like, the amnesia storyline is a very interesting one, or the minimal non backstory story is difficult to work with. And once again, we're talking about writing better backstories to give hooks for plots. And if you don't have anything, that's really rough. Amnesia can be one, but that's one of those ones that you just sort of have to work with your game
Amnesia.
master about.
There are ways to make amnesia great. Okay, if somebody wants to do amnesia, you tell them to write a different backstory. Okay, they have to also provide you with a backstory so you can upend that backstory somewhere along the way. Like,
Yeah.
that's the plot hook that you give an amnesia person. in your game. If they want to do Amnesia and write no backstory because they want you to figure it out, all right, you were a janitor, you cleaned latrines forever, ever and ever and ever.
Yeah. Well, you've heard of the games where it's usually a one shot where none of the players know what character they are or what character they're playing. They've all woken up and they've got to sort of figure it out as they go, and they got to write down their character. That's a fun one-time event.
That's a whole different thing.
That's as an ongoing character, that's really rough.
That in fact is like the puzzle to whatever game you have, which is you're like literally trying to put together the character and the motivations and what's going on here.
I do think having some backstory, even if it's a little bit vague, is good. I think, I've got a note here. It says misery is good, that happy people don't leave to go in there. But I think it doesn't matter. You could be a happy person, your backstory. You could be a sad person, your backstory. You can be an angry person, a mischievous person. But have a personality.
Yeah, I mean, again, misery is sort of a shared element in a lot of people. No misery or no, strife and pain and all sorts of things. It's relatable to like the human experience. But it doesn't necessarily have to be all that in your fantasy world when you're role playing. Okay.
Yeah.
You could be, an adventurer from a great line of adventurers. Like that's a very interesting backstory. The expectations of the parents onto the children, okay, who become adventurers, and you're one of them, okay? Or, you have a strong sense of adventure in and of itself. A very good motivated, I want to do this because of XYZ thing that's happened in the past. Those are fine ways to generate a backstory as well. They make it harder to draw good plot hooks. Misery makes for great plot hooks.
I've got some good plot hooks right off of I came from a long line of adventurers.
Well, no, that's a great one. Okay,
because your parents really screwed something up decades ago.
Yeah, no, that one's great because there's a lot of ways to create plot hooks out of that. Just being like, I like to adventure because I used to play an adventure. I used to adventure a lot when I was younger, and I used to explore a lot when I was younger. That one's a little bit harder. Okay, there are some things that you can do with that, but misery generally makes for good plot hooks. It's what event here's the classic one. I was in a town. My whole town was burnt to the ground by blah, blah, blah person. Okay. Guess what? Okay. Here. Why don't you throw the GM some candy and a bag of chips and and their favorite soda or drink. Okay. Here, go do something with this. Make this person show up later in the game, please.
Oh yeah. And repeatedly. And it turns out they weren't the real person that did the thing. And now you've got, they were being controlled by this other person because they burned down their village. You can absolutely play with that forever. That is the start of half of the video games I played as a child. Okay.
Yes.
Misery is a wonderful backstory. Something terrible has happened. And the reason it's a great backstory is because it gives the player a goal, a purpose, something to do. And I think that is the key to a good backstory is motivation.
Yes.
A good character has personality. A good player's character for a story has a goal and a purpose. You have a personality and a goal. Oh man, you're showing up the table with gold. That's everything we want. Right?
Again, you're giving your GM options. That's what you want to do. The whole purpose of a backstory is to give the GM options. If the GM gets to choose whether or not to exercise those options, but it's like you're playing a card game, and the way that the GM has his hand of cards, which are his story, and you're handing the GM more cards. Okay, so now you get to have a very personally crafted story because you're giving the GM more points that they can add to the story, and the GM will learn as the game goes on how to create new plot points from things that your character does. But to be able to say, here are some things that you can throw in, doesn't have to be week one, doesn't have to be 10 weeks down the line. It could be a year down the line. You could pay it off in all sorts of different ways. Okay. Hey, maybe you've been struggling to find a villain. You know, this is a good way to pay those things off. Okay. Like you have something from a player's backstory, from a shared backstory of players. Okay. Good ways to then pay off that villain or, do something of that nature. There's so many things you can do. And the backstory, again, if you're listening to this as a GM, you don't have to act on all the things your players
No,
give.
please don't.
Please do not. Okay. Please do not derail your entire story to do that for your players. They'll like it ish. Okay. Depending on how well you execute it. All right. But this isn't a strictly sandbox, no story game where the players just drive motivation left and right. Okay. And if you're a player, give your GM a lot of these things. Okay. And understand that the GM might not hit half of them. All right. The more you give them, the better off you are, and the better the GM is going to be able to do to create situations that are going to feel special to you in the game.
Yeah. Okay. So, if we've got what's making good backstories, what makes a good character backstories, what makes a good plot hook?
The plot hooks, I mean, again, they're the good motivations from your characters' backstories.
No,
So,
I don't mean I want to like separate it from the characters. Just like in general. Let's say we've got just a string of bland white guys with brown hair, like every single video game I play nowadays. Just the middle-aged grizzled white dude with brown hair and no personality. Okay, those are the guys that show up at your table. You need to give them a plot hook. What is a good plot hook?
if you have nothing to work with from the characters themselves,
Yeah.
okay, the plot hooks are all the things that are in your story. So you follow the way the characters act, okay, because the characters have given you nothing about who their personality is. They're going to drive the story based on how they are. So if they're just bland and generic and don't do anything, the plot hooks are the pieces of your story that you want to have the players touch on. So, for example, the introduction of your villain. Okay, that's a plot hook. It should be motivating enough where if the players have nothing else, they know that they must stop this person to execute the story and get to the end of the game. And if you want to make it, the death of a character, the introduction of an important NPC. These are all ways that you can get your players invested in the story. And then if they have given you the backstory, you just tie those two things together like a nice little bow.
I wrote down a couple of things I was thinking about when I was thinking about plot hooks divorced from characters, just like in like a storytelling vacuum, writing a plot hook. What would be what what is a motivation? Its basest elements. Um, you mentioned it. Introducing something with a person, a place, or a thing with a clear goal. So that's something has occurred that needs to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
That's a plot hook. You've introduced the thing. This needs to happen. So you've got a clear goal and
You've
usually a time
introduced the
frame.
problem, and you've said the solution is
Go there. Do
whatever
this
you do to take care of that problem. Okay.
It's a clear goal and a ticking clock because you got to get these people moving.
Yes.
Like it has to happen now. The villain has showed up and he's gonna stab a puppy. That's why he's a villain. But you got to run over there and stop him right now. It's that whole like you put something in front of them that has motivation and a time frame. You could also go with things like intrigue or mystery, like there's a spooky house on the outside of town. There's something that your players are interested in exploring. It doesn't necessarily need to be, but it has to be. That's a KYP sort of thing. What are your players?
I would argue
that
that interesting. Is it truly anything? Is a plot hook truly anything of interest that your players might latch on to?
I mean, I've started stories with less.
Because so I was about to say like the spooky house on the outside of town. That doesn't sound like a plot hook, but
the plot hook is
if it
really catches when you get there.
But yeah, but if it's interesting to get your players to latch onto it, that would in fact be a plot hook. It's the hook.
Yeah,
plot. Come with
brings
me.
them in. Yeah. Like the actual plot happens once they get there, and something has happened. The hook is there's some guy telling you about a spooky house at the edge of town. You go and find out.
I mean, I guess if I was white, bland, faceless characters from video games, this is more like a plot trap. Like, I'm going to get you to go do something.
Well, that's why a lot of those video games, they get like the opening level is a hallway and you can go that way. And then they tell you you're doing a good job as you walk that way. Because, yeah.
You mean I don't need to go visit the 37 points of interest on my map and go play flute to go get a new headband or something? That's a little Ghost of Tsushima.
No, I don't want to do any of that anymore. Just give me something to do. Give me a character that has relevance, interest. I think boiled down to the components that I think make a good plot hook. It needs to be clear. There's a spooky house. That's clear. It needs to be relevant. Your players investigate spooky houses. It needs to be interesting. It's a spooky house. And it needs to be solvable. It's over there. You can go there. Those 4 things make a good plot hook. You have defined the issue. Your players are the ones that are going to be involved in it. It has something that will bring them into it. It's interesting. And you've given them the concept of it being solvable. It doesn't need to be solvable right now. It doesn't need to be, fully achievable. But like in their minds, you're presenting it in a way that it looks like that's a solvable issue. By putting those 4 things in place, you've made a decent plot hook. You've made a way to get your players involved. I think that's the key right there. Right?
Yeah.
So we take that and we apply that to our characters' backstories. And we can take their backstories and their vague or their personal ties or their maladjustments in childhood or their long-standing history of parents who adventure and destroy kingdoms by accident, and just like go through and build plot hooks out of their backstory. So they have to go and resolve something from their past. Some terrible event that has occurred in their past. Their town burned down while they were out collecting berries by the waterfall they weren't supposed to be at. And they found this old rusty sword. Or
Josh, come on.
What?
We're gonna call back to the SNES.
I spent a lot of time in this video. You could right a wrong that they'd done. They were a soldier, like a foot soldier in an army, and they did something terrible, and they don't want to talk about it. but they gotta make up for, that terrible thing that they did. And now they are presented with a way to achieve that goal. Now you've taken that backstory and you've given them a means to solve that. You've made it clear. It's definitely interesting. You've given them a solvable thing and as relevant as possible because it is their backstory. Those are your four hits right there. The reason we have goals for players, we want players to, write down, like, what do you want to achieve? Well, you can put that out there. You can say, like, look, these are the things that are in your way. This is how you're going to achieve it. You've now made it relevant and solvable. That's a plot hook. Draws them in, gets them invested. Yeah. You got any?
No. No. Even a lot of after you pull out the straight video game plot on me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Secret of Mana is an absolute gem. Yeah, it's good. I think the important thing that we want to talk about, that I wanted to bring up here was, yes, you want to have backstories for characters that seem useful, that have sort of a little garden that a good game master can pluck and prune until it's beautiful. But the backstories are wonderful if you can turn them into plot hooks. And knowing
that's the whole purpose of. I mean, backstories are cool. Like, I mean, sometimes backstories can be very. Again, they are tools to. They are tools to help you play your character better, and they are tools for the GM to help spin events in the story for you, like to tie back into the things that make you play your character better. So everything feels more personally crafted towards you. This world that the GM creates is not just his world. You are a character, a person in the world. And if you provide the GM with a reasonable backstory with a level of vagueness to it and strong motivation based on events that have happened in your backstory, you are giving the GM a lot of tools to be able to make the story more impactful for you. That's like the most important thing is that. So again, in the plot hooks there, the great thing about having a backstory that is evil person burnt down my village while I was collecting berries, is that now that evil person can show up in your evil person's army. Okay. So like he's part of the plot. He's right there. And it looks, when I say it out here and you listen to this, you're gonna go, oh, that sounds so contrived, so simple. Why would anybody think anything of that other than like, of course, to put two and two together? It's not that. It's that it makes you look like a very well-rounded GM for doing it. It's not that you made the biggest bad guy the guy that burnt down the village. It's that they are tangentially connected or they're directly connected. Right? And now, like, it's the bad guy was the motivation. That should be the plot hook, is big bad guy doing bad things in the world. Okay? Like, again, I'm simplifying this. There's other plot hooks. Josh just listed out a whole bunch of them. Okay? But if your background story is somebody burned down my village and that person is this person and now they're connected and working with the bad guy, it's like double hook. Okay? I've now snared you. You're stuck. You have to go because that's the guy. I have to take care of him. And wait, why was he hired by this guy? Okay. Guess what? You can do all sorts of crazy things when you finally get around to him He's dying and he's gasping. You finally defeated him, vanquished. Revenge. Haha! I got you. You evil doer. He tells you, I never wanted this for myself. I had to do like you can make it like, oh, now I have to go kill the other guy. Now I have to go take care of him. Okay, like I really need to do it now because I've been bamboozled this whole time. This guy wasn't the bad guy. It was always this guy.
Yeah,
You know,
like that's what I was saying about plot hooks. It's relevant and interesting because you're going after the guy that burned down your village. It's solvable because you just stab him. You stab him enough, he's gonna die.
Knives, my only weakness.
It's like my blood needs to be inside of me. But yeah, and then because if you've got your story that you've written for your campaign, for your game, is they've got to go and defeat the evil army from the other place. Okay, fine. Well, now make it personal. Tie it into their backstory. Give them a reason to get involved at the small level, and that'll draw them into the bigger levels, into the larger plot. And they get swept up in the whole story, and now they're, leading a ragtag group of rebels against the evil empire, and they're going to destroy the fortress thing that travels around blowing up towns with its laser. No, wait. It's a movie.
The only way to do that is by casting magic missile through a 2 million.
I used to do that with Womp Rats back on the farm. No. But yeah, it's all about the simple things leading to something bigger, and tying those simple things into the backstory is part of that whole the hero's journey that I know we've talked about. Also, it's that call to action, and the easiest way to get somebody involved is to make it personal, is to make it relevant to them, is to give them that motivation. And so a good backstory has those places that you can tie into. Yeah.
Exactly. Do you have anything else you want to add to this topic, Josh?
The only thing that I would like to add is if you do have multiple players at your table that have wonderful backstories with glorious places for hooks, don't do them all at the same time. You can do two. Two works really well. As long as it's the same hook that hits both of them.
That is very sage advice. Yes, you don't want to overwhelm the character. The key to backstory events and stuff like that is highlighting and spotlighting individuals for a period of time before you move on to somebody else.
Yeah. Especially if those two had a personal connection beforehand, you make it about one of them, and then they find out that same plot hook is about both of them, and it draws their connection as characters together, and they become closer friends forevers. But if you make it about everybody, I don't remember. There's like one of the Final Fantasies where like each one of the characters was wronged by the same bad guy, and you're like, well, why? That sounds so awful. That guy is just a jerk. And then, of course, he joins your party later, and you're like, okay, we got the jerk on our side. So, yeah, don't do that. Like, one, maybe two, but like, make it so it's a little bit of a work, but to get it so that it draws the characters closer, gives them a little bit of an arc, so you can move on to the rest of the story. Yeah. I got nothing else. Just, not for today, do I?
Awesome. Well, if you have any thoughts on adding plot hooks into your backstories, making better backstories that way, let us know at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. The podcast is also on YouTube, so you can subscribe to it there, recommend it to a friend there, write a comment, all those good things. And then for everywhere else, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, your favorite podcast site, review it, recommend it to friends, like I just said, and all those things as well. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Happy New Year, everyone. Have a good day.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye.